Israel should be treated like what it is, an apartheid state. You don't have normal relations with such a state. You don't sell it weapons, you don't military cooperate with it, you don't give it a political shield, and you don't do normal trade with it. That's the demands we're making today, and a lot of our demands are supported by a wide body of opinion. Keir Starmer's out of sync with public opinion. The majority of people want us to stop selling weapons, and the UK is isolated on the global stage. 70% of the world's states 2 weeks ago supported a resolution calling for Israel to immediately end its occupation and calling on states not to supply it with weapons.
And in terms of the international order, why do you think the ICJ is taking such a long? The ICJ. Yeah, why are they taking so long in deciding whether they are going to acquiesce to the request of the prosecutor to bring Netanyahu, Gallant, and other Hamas leaders to the Hague?
Well, straightforwardly because of political pressure, mainly from the US, who've exerted extraordinary political pressure. We've seen statements and motions passed in the Congress against the ICC, but this is the world's independent criminal court.
What does it mean for international law?
Well, it means effectively, if we're going to have a rules-based order, it's got to be implemented, and we're in a very dangerous moment in terms of respect for international law. However imperfect it is, it's the only viable system we have that says when can states and other actors use force, when can they not. So it's absolutely crucial. The UK says it supports the independence of the courts. Well, those can't be words. That means you implement the decisions they've made. One of the decisions the ICJ has made, one of the judgments it's made, is no state should aid and abet a genocide. That means you stop selling weapons to Israel. So we're in a really dangerous moment. The ICC needs to proceed. It needs to issue the arrest warrants. If it does, the UK, if Netanyahu dares step foot on British soil, he needs to be immediately arrested. Otherwise, the UK is saying, no, we don't support the implementation of international law.
And final question, in terms of the movement here in the UK, obviously a lot of this has generated into the political sphere. The election of 5 independent candidates, mainly on the Gaza issue. There's more elections coming along. Do you think this is is having the types of impact that people anticipated over the next year, 2 year, maybe 5 years?
Yeah, look, let me give you one measure. For many years now, PSC has been campaigning for local authorities to divest their pension funds from complicit companies. That's hard work, and there's all sorts of reasons why they don't want to do that. In the last few weeks, we've seen the very first pension scheme, Walton Forest, make a decision to divest. We're seeing Islington Council saying it won't have a contract with Barclays Bank. Why? Because they've got an eye on the forthcoming local authority elections. They saw what happened in the general election. They're looking at the opinion polls, and they're saying this is going to resonate as an issue. Everybody watching this needs to make sure it does resonate as an issue. We are conducting campaigns in boroughs up and down the country. You need to get involved in that campaign. Tell your councillors, I'm not voting for you unless you take action to make sure money is not going to be used to support Israel's...
Where would they find the details?
Just Google this, LGPS, Local Government Pension Scheme, LGPS divest. It will take you to the website we've set up to conduct all of those campaigns. If you can't find it there, just go on Palestine Solidarity Campaign's website.
We Jews who survived all this pain, the killings, humiliation and destruction, oppose the use of the memory of the Holocaust as cover and justification for the ongoing genocide against the Palestinian people in Gaza and the West Bank, and now even extended to Lebanon. Not in our name. Not in our name! And we are against the conflation of simply being a Jew with support for apartheid and genocidal Israel. It is untrue, incorrect, and a lie, and it is not anti-Semitic to oppose Israel. And claims to the contrary made by the right-wing Board of Deputies in the name of a unified mythical Jewish community are false, as there is no such unified entity. They simply discount the majority of secular and other Jews, including socialist Jews like myself and many of my friends and comrades. We Holocaust survivors and descendants are warmly welcomed by these great marches, and we share our solidarity with the sufferings of the Palestinian people. And so, at the same time, we oppose and disprove the other false claim that these great marches are no-go areas for Jews.
We are here today because we have witnessed a year of Gaza being deliberately starved, a year of innocent men, women and children being slaughtered. Over 118,000 people have been killed by Israel alone in Gaza, according to American medical professionals who work there, disproportionately women and children. These are not just numbers, they were real people like me and you, with hopes, dreams, families and futures. Futures that have been stolen. Refugee camps, civilians, hospitals, all deliberately targeted. Over 116 journalists killed, making this the deadliest period for the press. Israel has tried to silence even those who bear witness to its crimes, and these crimes have been aided and abetted by our government and the United States.
Ismail Patel from the Friends of Al-Aqsa organisation, who is responsible for what we've seen over the last year. I was speaking to you earlier, Ismail Bhai, about how it's now a year and so much death, so much destruction. When we look at what's going on in Lebanon, it seems to be like the earlier days of Gaza.
Absolutely, and unfortunately we mentioned this right at the beginning of the year, that if we allow Israel to continue with its genocide in Gaza, it will become emboldened and it will move and spread its terror around the region. And unfortunately, that's what we are seeing. And the acts, hopefully in Lebanon now, will wake up more people and galvanize the solidarity movement for justice in the region. We're now not only talking about justice for the Palestinian, but we're talking about justice for the Lebanese, the Syrians, even the Yemenis, and all the region around that.
And in terms of where what we're saying happening in this country and across the world, America's going to have its elections pretty soon, in a month's time or so. Do you think what was achieved in the UK with the 5 independents is going to be able to be translated in other parts of the Western world?
I think there is a definite movement within this global society to ensure that the people they elect at least have some sort of representation. They're no longer going for the mainstream parties. As we've shown in Britain, we had a political revolution here to have 5 independent MPs. And I'm hearing at the moment from the ground in America that the people will not go for the 2-party system, either Democrat or Republican. They might actually spoil their vote. And that would be very positive, and to ensure that we will not will not endorse people who are endorsing genocide. And I think that is very significant. And of course, globally, what has happened, that states now have stood up to the bullying of the United States of America. The fact that only one country abstains at the United Nations now shows a lot. This could have not happened 20 years ago. This would have not actually happened 20 months ago. Forget 20 years ago. So what this means is our movement, the hundreds of thousands of people coming out, not just in London, but around the world, has emboldened countries to say, you know what, our people are with us, and we can now stand up to America, and we can uphold the rule of law, human rights, and ensure there's justice in Palestine.
Now view Israel unfavorably, a reflection of the growing awareness that has taken hold thanks to your relentless activism. We have exposed political figures like Keir Starmer for what they are. When he claims the UK stands with Israel, we say loudly and clearly, it is not in our name. He stands alone, out of touch and a fraud. It is through the courage of our protest that we've inspired 11 countries, including Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, Chad, to break diplomatic ties with apartheid Israel. Because of our efforts, nations like Canada, Spain, Italy, Japan, Belgium have halted arms sales to Israel. Our demands and justice encourage South Africa to take action. lodging a case of genocide against Israel at the ICJ. And thanks to our presence here, the ICC now is pursuing an arrest warrant for Netanyahu, the butcher of Gaza. We have seen political change right here as well. Our protests have become a platform for a political revolution, leading to a victory of 5 independent MPs. Even within the Labour Party, our efforts have emboldened MPs, challenging Starmer's authoritarian stance. So let no one tell you that protests don't work. With our voices on the streets, the media in the UK would have buried the horrific atrocities committed by Israel alongside the Palestinian victims they tried to silence. It is because of our relentless protest that today 146 countries now recognize the state of Palestine.
It's for the children who dare dream. That is why we march. We march because we believe that Palestinian children deserve to live. We march because we know that every moment of silence is another moment where a child dies, where a family is destroyed, and where dreams are shattered. So today, as we stand with Gaza and Lebanon, let us remember that we are not powerless. Our voices matter. Our actions matter. Together, we have made the world take notice. We can make our governments act. We will not stop until this genocide ends. Until justice is done, until every child, every family, every person can live in peace.
We were just talking with Ismail Patel of Friends of Alexa about whether this movement, like it did in the national elections, produced 5 independent MPs, and whether this can be translated into the US, where things seem to be a lot more organised, but at times a lot less hopeful. What's your view on that?
Well, look, also a different political system that exists. But look, you have to hit politicians in the ballot box. That's my view. You have to make sure they feel the pain at the ballot box. That's the democratic way of making your anger and frustration known. And look, we've got probably, if not millions, certainly hundreds of thousands lining the streets here, and the message is very simple. Stop arming Israel, demand a ceasefire, and recognise the state of Palestine. Not to do so means that we're going to continue to see Israel act with impunity in their aggression.
In terms of what's taking place on the ground over there, we seem to be on the anniversary about to do rewind and press play again in terms of what's happening in Lebanon. Again, the Israelis have asked so many villages to be cleared or houses to be cleared, and they are now demolishing them as they did with Gaza. How do you think people that are watching here or maybe on this demonstration can materially impact that type of those types of events that are taking place?
Well, look, I know it can feel like there's no hope anymore because the governments don't listen to us, and that's why we have to continue to make sure we use the democratic means through elections, through the ballot box, to put pressure on the UK government and other governments as well. Look, it is important, incumbent, that when our children look back at history, we can say that we were on the right side of it, because there will be a trial. I believe the Netanyahu government and Benjamin Netanyahu himself will be put on trial for war crimes, and it's important that those who were complicit in that also are answerable for what they have done.
It seems to be that in Scotland the emphasis is, it seems to be more pro-Palestinian, let's say, the political sphere, than here in Britain, I suppose, in Parliament, shall I say, the national Parliament. Why is that? Is there something that the Scots people recognise a little bit more than perhaps the English?
Look, I couldn't really truthfully say what the reason or rationale is, but I would say this much. I think it's because it's not an issue for me actually of being pro-Muslim, pro-Arab, pro-Palestinian. It's about being pro-humanity. So when Scottish people see that inhumanity, they take to the streets. And in terms of political parties, look, I'm very proud to be part of the SNP. We're a party that has, not just in the last year, but for decades recognised the historic injustice done to the Palestinian people. So we believe, much as like the Irish government believe, but there must be an end to the suffering and the injustices of the Palestinian people, and that also has to come with a recognition of the Palestinian state.
Very finally, what's next for you? You're very young, you've still got pretty dark hair.
Some dark hair.
What happens next for you? Obviously, you took the highest office in Scotland. Where do you go now?
Well, look, I'm still a member of the Scottish Parliament, very proud to be a member of the Scottish Parliament until 2026. I'll decide thereafter what I choose to do, but what I can tell you without any equivocation is whatever role I have in life, I'll always speak out against injustice, whoever's impacted and affected, including, of course, the Palestinian people.
At this very moment, there are bombs falling in Gaza, in Yemen, in Lebanon, in Syria, Iran, Iraq. The bombing has brought about the deaths of 40,000 people in Gaza, including 16,000 children. And Gaza is now a place of unbelievable levels of poverty, of hunger, of lack of medicine and famine that has taken hold. All of it specifically designed to happen by the Israeli bombardment and the weapons they've used to bring that about. And since they started the invasion of Gaza, what hasn't been noticed by much of the media is a very large number of new settlements have been built by Israel in the West Bank. Tens of thousands of Palestinians on the West Bank have been arrested and remain in prison, many of them in administrative detention. Attacks have taken place against Palestinian villages, and there have been deaths as well on the West Bank. And then when the action started in Lebanon, the numbers of people now driven from their homes runs into the hundreds of thousands as the Israeli army has issued orders to people to leave all of southern Lebanon to allow Israel to occupy it. And the bombardment doesn't stop there. It goes across the borders into other countries as well. And now we understand there is large bombardment taking place in Yemen. So you ask yourself this question: how is it that Israel, a country of 5 million, is able to mount such a massive attack on so many of its neighbours? And the answer is quite simply, they have endless supplies of some of the most sophisticated weapons the world has ever seen. $20 billion worth of US weapons have already been exported to Israel. This country is also complicit, not so much in the great volume of them, but in the crucial parts that are supplied for those planes that are raining bombs down on Lebanon and Gaza at the present time.
I oppose any missiles attacks on Israeli civilians in the same way I oppose Israel's mass bombardment of Gaza and Lebanon and, God forbid, Iran, or the killing of civilians on October the 7th. But it's simply nonsense to reduce the current threat of regional war in the Middle East to the actions of Iran. The Palestinian people have been resisting Israeli occupation of their lands since before the Islamic Republic of Iran was even born. The Lebanese people gave birth to Hezbollah only after the Israeli invasion of Lebanon in 1982. The single biggest factor driving war and instability in the Middle East is the actions of Israel and the genocide in Gaza. And as the world's attention is drawn to the invasion of Lebanon, that genocide continues.
If I must die by Rifat al-Ari, if I must die, you must live to tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings, make it white with a long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, who are looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself. Seize the kite, my kite that you made flying up above, and thinks just for a moment that an angel is there bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope. Let it be a tale